Hey guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video we're gonna talk about Aizen Sasuke in part 4. Because among the things I'm most looking forward to in this part is seeing how Kubo will handle Aizen Sasuke. We've already talked in previous videos about what Kubo might do regarding Aizen Sasuke, such as adding some new scenes for him, particularly those related to his battle against Yuabach. And that fight actually was the final battle in the manga. Aizen fought side by side with Ichigo, and now Kubo he said that a certain character will finally make a move in part 4 and will have a major role. That's why we mentioned that one of the possible scenarios is that this movement concerns Aizen, whether he does something major or even releases his Bankai. And regardless of what kind of necessity would push Aizen to release his Bankai, the appearance of Aizen's Bankai itself would be a huge event. However guys, one of the things that I honestly hope to see as additions is to find out what exactly happened to Aizen Sasuke after he was defeated by Yuabach. How was he returned to Mukin? And what did Saido Aporo mean when he said that Aizen Sasuke's spiritual power or Aizen himself had disappeared? Something that contributed to disrupting the balance between the worlds on Hell. Of course guys, these questions aren't all part of the same timeline. For example guys, in the manga, the last moment we have seen about Aizen in the Quincy arc was when he was speaking to Ichigo. Then Yuabach returns and launched that attack. That was actually the last scene of Aizen in the Quincy arc. Of course I'm speaking about the final chapter, the final events of the Quincy arc, chapter 684, because the story then jumped forward 10 years, and after that we see Aizen in Mukin, talking about the disappearance of Yuabach's reiatsu, or more accurately, the remnants of it, because the other remnants were sealed in the Soul Society and ended up placed in the cocoon and becoming the replacement from the Soul King. That's why I said guys, I wish we could know how Aizen survived Yuabach's attack. Did someone save him? Did he return by himself? And more importantly guys, why did he even agree to return to Mukin? In the novel, there are scenes showing the Gote 13, led by Kyuraku, preparing to return Aizen Sasuke to Mukin. But how he agreed to that in the first place? That remains a mystery to me. Maybe that ties into a bigger question. What is Aizen's goal now? Did the removal and the death of the Soul King throw Aizen's plans into chaos? Honestly, I don't think so. Because guys, Aizen's target wasn't the Soul King himself, but rather the system the Soul King represented. Proof of that is that what exists in the Riot Palace now can barely even be called a being. Aizen referred to it as a thing. The same phrase he used when he asked Ura Arakiski, why do you obey to that thing? At that time, he was referring to the Soul King, who at least back then guys, was still a singular person, even though he was without legs and arms, but at least a person. Now there is nothing but his remains fused with the remains of Yuabach, forming literally a thing. So technically guys, nothing has changed, and that leads us to the question, how does Aizen Sasuke feel about what's happening now above? Everything he said at the end of the manga, which by the way perfectly summed up Yuabach's philosophy and goals, was ultimately just about Yuabach. Aizen never actually spoke about himself or what he wanted. That's why guys, when the Hell One Shot was released and Saido Aporo mentioned that destruction of the balance between the worlds and the release of the Hell's monsters was due to the disappearance of both Aizen, Sasuke and Yuabach, some people tied this as Aizen truly having disappeared and no longer being in Mukin. But in reality guys, Saido Aporo's words could be interpreted in multiple ways, and I don't believe this is one of them. It's more likely that he wasn't talking literally about Aizen disappearing as a person, but rather about the disappearance of their spiritual power's influence, which had in some way sealed or suppressed the gates of hell. So what he means is, as long as there were beings with spiritual pressure, great one, like Aizen Yuabach, the gates of hell remained closed. But then Yuabach died at the end of the war, and as we know Aizen was sealed in the Mukin, so those seals may have completely concealed or cut off his spiritual power from the outside world. That's why guys, from the Hell's perspective, Aizen's influence as a searing energy vanished, and that might be what led Zaido to that conclusion. But in the end, guys, whatever the case, I really hope part 4 includes additions that explain these mysterious points about Aizen. Not necessarily all of them, but at least one. In the end, guys, what do you think about the disappearance of Aizen's reiatsu? Do you have another explanation? Tell me guys about that in the comments and see you in my next video.